Okay, your spiritual reset. There are things that happen in life all the time, as we all know, that are unexpected. And they can throw us for a bit of a loop, even though it may be a temporary thing. We need to be able to bring ourselves back to our center. And that is a practice that we learn to engage in rather than something that we learn once and that's it forever. I remember many years ago I was conducting a funeral service in a small town in Missouri. And I think it was kind of a budget funeral home. I'm not really sure, but it had some problems. But I was sitting up front waiting to do my part, and the casket with the deceased was right beside me. And all of a sudden, a woman behind the casket, behind a screen, started singing. And I was not at all expecting it, and I think I jumped about 3 feet off the chair. And her voice was not real pleasant. It was, she sang like a bird, like a crow with a sore throat sort of thing. And so it scared me, and I had to just totally bring my thoughts back to the reverence that you're supposed to have at a funeral service. Because I wanted to laugh, you know, one of those things where you're taken so off guard that you want to laugh at yourself, but I didn't think that would be appropriate. So, and that's just an example, a very mild example of things, the kinds of things that can happen that are not expected at all. We set a course for ourselves, and that doesn't always work out right in a way that we hope it does. And I think that's why Thoreau, one of the reasons Henry David Thoreau said the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Very famous quote. And why do you think that is? It's could be that we believe that's true. We relate to that. A lot of us put on a happy face and we don't always feel so happy inside. And that's what the spiritual life should help us with. Is that possible? Is it possible to be able to go through life and all of the unexpected twists and turns that it holds, and it holds many, and have some level of peace, experience some level of peace? So there are techniques, and I'm going to talk about one today, that we can employ, very simple things that will help us get to that place of peace. And we have to also give ourselves permission to go crazy, to lose it once in a while, you know, to let the steam off, or let things go in our minds where normally we would maybe think, you know, I should have known better, I could do better. We keep thinking that we're going to reach some level where even when the lady sings behind the corpse, that we're not disturbed by that, or not taken aback. But it's never happened to me yet. You know, things still pop up and still get my attention in ways that make me realize that I'm not ready to ascend yet. And frankly, I'm glad that that's not part of the criteria for getting out of here. You know, we just we'll follow that path when we get to it. So we like action, we like to initiate changes, see results, and go on to the next thing with the feeling that our life is progressing. Don't we do that? Don't we feel like we're in a school and we're learning, and what grade are we in? Doesn't that kind of depend on what day it is? What happens that day? Do you ever feel like you're making great progress one day, like you're just about to graduate, and the next moment you're in kindergarten, or maybe preschool, or maybe you haven't even been born yet, you're just not even on the field yet? Why is that? And will that ever get better? Will that ever stabilize? And I don't think it will. You know, as long as we have this utility called the physical body. I have raised the question before, can you think of a single fear that is not body related? Can anybody? We can just open this up for discussion. Is there a fear that you have that is not body related? Could you think of prosperity, as money and well-being, and the sense of your life is in good shape? Why do you need money? Because we have to eat. We need a house, or we need some type of shelter. We prefer clothing, unless we want to live in jail. But think of how many thoughts are centered, and what about transporting the body with a car? And the insurance that's involved in that, and the upkeep, and all the things. Or the relationships that we're involved in. They're all really body related. The near-death experiencers say that when you step from this body, you don't have the same kind of relationship with anybody. There's nothing to offend. There's no one to offend. It's all pure love, pure understanding. It's hard to grasp that. It's hard to understand that. But why do we feel separate from other people? We claim that we're all one, but we don't feel that way because we're all inhabiting these vehicles we call physical bodies. And we have different interests, different needs, and so on, and a lot of the problems that arise in relationships are body related. Not that we're in a physical relationship with anybody, but if you didn't have the body that limits your way to express, maybe you said something that you didn't mean, or you meant it a certain way and it came out wrong, that's your body speaking, not your mind. It's not your soul. But everything that all the fears that we have, I believe, are body related. If anybody can come up with one that's not, I'd like to know about it, because I want to think about that. Because I think about this stuff all the time. So what do we do about that? We don't want to get rid of the body. We want to learn to live within the body and do it as successfully as we possibly can. Somebody said in a tape or a video I was watching this week that they think we come back or incarnate because we like certain foods. Could be. I incarnated because I like to eat. Well, I would rather not worry about food myself. I would rather not have to worry about what I eat or what I put on. I mean, that would be the ideal. And, the spiritual master, we envision this person as a breatharian, maybe, that they are at a level where they don't need to eat. So they're in the body and they solve the problem of eating. I've never met anybody that has done that. I've never met anybody that can levitate, that can travel without the use of some physical vehicle. I've never met anyone in a physical body that doesn't have the same challenges I have of taking care of it. So while we're in this body, we're required, if we want to be peaceful, live a peaceful life, to make peace with that. That there will always be, this or something more. There's always wars and rumors of wars, when you're in a body. So that's part of what we are trying to deal with, or we need to deal with. Is how do you deal with body-related fears? If what Jesus said, you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free, don't you think maybe he was talking about freedom from fear? To me, that is the primary thing he was talking about. You know the truth, and the truth sets you free. Well, the truth is you're not your physical body. And every time you get upset because of some fear or something that comes up around the body, there is a way to go to another place where you have a different experience. And that's the challenge of the spiritual teaching. If that place is there, you would think you'd just run straight for it. But it usually takes us a while. Usually we have to run down the road of total self-destruction, and then we get so tired of running, we stop and try to find some peace. But we want life to go a certain way. We like action, we like success, we like all these things, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we initiate changes and nothing happens, or everything seems to go wrong. Such times can contribute to feelings of quiet desperation. And any goal that we set for ourselves, we're actually setting because we have a body. So, to me, that's helpful to a helpful perspective to maintain. Because that's another thing Jesus addressed is, why do you worry about the food you're going to eat or what you put on, what you're going to wear? Isn't life more than these things? And that's the question he's posing for people to consider. Is there another way to look at this problem that I think I'm having here? And there is. A line attributed to Jesus contains a spiritual gem that can help us reset and begin again. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." We all know how that's interpreted in mainstream Christianity. Jesus is talking about himself. Accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. Jesus is the way. You'll see billboards with that effect everywhere, that you find any kind of religious thing. But Jesus would not be calling attention to himself, but to the spiritual core of his listener. If you just think of yourself like we're here and Jesus is sitting in front of us, teaching us, do you think he would be saying that my physical self, is your answer, is your way, is the thing you're looking for? I don't think he said that. I don't think he intended to say that. That is the message of the early church. The early church focused totally on the personality of Jesus. Unity's been accused of being a cult. And you know what a cult is. It's an organization that is based on personality worship. And that's one of the best ways to define mainstream Christianity. It's based on the personality of Jesus. And we can thank Paul in a large degree for that. But we can also thank the gospel writers and just most of the literature that we see in the New Testament. But it's not thought of in the same way as we would think of a cult, as Jesus being the center of the cult worship, because they have made him the only begotten Son of God. So they put him in a place that's not human. It's beyond human. So it's okay to worship the personality. They made that okay. That's not something that you'll hear talked about ever. That the mainstream Christian philosophy has all of the markings of a cult. And that's what the Romans and the early people that were anti-Christian thought about. They thought this was a bizarre cult based on this person that was a cannibal, which is very weird. I mean, you try to think of how they were perceiving all of this stuff. When Jesus said to drink my blood and eat my flesh, that's a pretty hard one. He lost a lot of his followers as a result of saying that, according to the scriptures, according to the Gospels, I think John. But when he says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, he's not talking about his personality. He's talking about the I that I am, the I that you are, that spiritual core that is at the heart of each one of us. And this I could believe, that he's saying, it's not me, the person, that is the way, it's you. It's your self-awareness, your self-discovery, your understanding of yourself as a spiritual being. There's a part of yourself that is always in total peace. But that mentality that you're involved in is running all over the world, all over the place. And it's not at that center. So the way that you're looking for is with you. It's within you. This is why I think that his audience was the common person, that they were drawn to him because he was speaking of something they could do, something they could understand. It's not easy to understand this, but I think he was a spiritual genius. I think he was a master at explaining what he was talking about. And that has become fogged over by the Gospels according to 4 other writers and Paul. I think the following that he had would be different than the following that he has today. It'd be a whole different mindset. But so much time has passed. You know, from his death to the first gospel, as I pointed out, 40 years went by. I've been doing ministry for just a little over 40 years, and I have a sense of how much time that is, how much time could pass. Once in a while I'll hear from somebody. I heard from somebody yesterday that was involved in, I think, our second ministry. And it just seems like ages ago. And what's interesting is they watch me on YouTube and they appreciate this, and I appreciate what they said in their comment. And I appreciate YouTube being able to show up in their house, you know, now. But 40 years is a long time. So here's this man, he shows up, and there's a small group of Jews that think he is the Messiah. There is a very large group of Jews that do not. In fact, they think so much that he is not the Messiah that anyone who claims he is, they throw him out of the synagogue. They expel him. It's pretty serious business. And that would be the Jewish authorities of the day, and that's basically what the Gospel of John says. John being written around 100 A.D., there was a progression. When Mark was written, it was the people that stood against Jesus. By the time we reach John, it's the Jews. So he names the Jews as being basically the enemy. That's the Jews in charge. So this progression of perception of who Jesus was over 40 years evolved into pretty much the picture we have today. Paul's letters were the first New Testament literature to show up. And if you read Paul, there's some things you really get and some things that just seem like they're almost mindless in what he's saying. But a lot of what we would consider theology around Jesus was invented by Paul. So to try to put all this in perspective, we have Jesus, this teacher, this healer, that was appealing to people for a certain reason. But do you think the good news that he gave was, I've come to die for your sins. When you die, you'll go to heaven if you believe in me? Or was he appealing to people who were struggling through life, and he was giving them a way to deal with that? A practical way that they'd never heard before. And he was speaking in religious and spiritual tones. So he could connect their faith system with their brain. They didn't have to just accept something in faith. He could explain why this works as it does. So the way that he taught, I think, is to turn within. That's the way, the truth, and the life. You're in a situation that you are struggling with. There's a place in yourself that you can go and find peace. And in finding that peace, your mind is open to new guidance, new ideas, new direction. Think of your spiritual center as the axle that holds the spinning wheel of your external life. I've shared this image before. I think it's a Zen, found in the Zen teachings of this stillness at the center. At your center, you're always at rest, regardless of how fast or how slow things seem to be moving. It's important to reconnect with this stable, unmoving part of yourself, to withdraw for a time from efforts to spin the wheel and surrender to the healing, balancing action of your guiding source. I've rediscovered this place many, many times. When you're in a mental and emotional storm, it's very difficult to go to this place. You know that. So give yourself leeway, give yourself plenty of leeway, because to condemn yourself for not being able to go within just compounds the problem. But there's this place, and images like the wheel spinning on the still axle help. That spinning aspect is my mind out there churning away with whatever's going on. And so I gradually let that go, and I move to that center and just even envision an actual still axle. It helps to have some type of imagery to bring ourselves back. And it's not earth-shaking. It's not rocket science. There is a place in us where this eternal aspect is bubbling up. Jesus talked about it as a fountain of living water welling up into eternity, eternal life. So you talk about this problem I have is in time and space. But if I touch this inner place, suddenly I'm given new vision, new inspiration, and possibly a new way of seeing, if nothing else, just the knowing that everything's okay. It's all working out. Jesus quoted, I think, either Isaiah or Psalms. I can't find the exact quote, but when he said, they shall all be taught by God, that's what I think he meant, that there's this inner place where we go, and we actually are changed as the result of that. The thing is, we're not on a linear path, evolving. You're probably tired of hearing me say that. Somebody else was talking about the lessons that we learn in the body, and I think, we're not our bodies. What good will all the lessons we learn while in a body do? If you were dropped into a mud pit, and I'm not saying the body's a mud pit, but if you were dropped into a mud pit and told to learn to be happy, what would that do? Of what value would that be? I learned to be happy in a mud pit. Are you going to be in a mud pit all your life? Or is that just one brief experience? What good does that information do when you get out of the mud pit? So we step into a body. Is it going to teach the soul something it doesn't know? If you find happiness in a mud pit, the only place you're going to find it is in yourself, because it's not in the mud pit. So you learn to be happy in the mud pit. You learn to be happy in a body. But how long are you going to have this thing? How much of this is you? Or how much of it is your garment? So we have to think larger. That's the whole point of I am the way, the truth, and the life. What is the way, the truth, and the life? It's a realization that I'm something much larger than this problem. And I open my mind to that, and I open my mind to the intelligence that is bringing all this to pass in the first place. And I become receptive to new ideas, to guidance, to things to do, to ways to get out of that perceptual mud pit. That's how it works. We don't pray, as Jesus said of his disciples, I don't pray that they be taken from this earth, but that they be kept from the evil one. What is the evil one? It's our brain. It's our thinking. It's our definition of how bad a thing is that's causing us all this grief. Is there a way we can handle that? Yes, we can step back. We can touch that eternal part of ourselves. And if nothing else, just relax, knowing this too shall pass. If you don't feel you can get into a deep meditative state where you know the truth that sets you free, at least let go and relax and say, this too shall pass. That's a lot better than nothing. And when you get to the point where you feel somewhat of relief from your thinking, then you get up and go about your business. Thoreau also said this, and it's not quoted so much, but I really like it. He said, you must live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find your eternity in each moment. Fools stand on their island of opportunities and look toward another land. There is no other land. There is no other life but this. So whatever you're in, whatever's going on in your life right now, are you standing on an island looking for? See, that's the second coming. That's the whole psychology behind someday the kingdom's going to come. Well, I think what Jesus was telling his followers is that someday is now. It's here. It's today. You have the ability to stand on your island and yes, to look out to another land that you'll never reach, but to realize that you are on your life. You're in it. This is it. How are you conducting yourself? Are you happy with this? Are you reacting, or are you taking action in a spiritual sense? Are you doing a spiritual reset? And that's the option. You desire the greater good because you are responding to that still small voice emanating from your central core. We desire more because we are more. I think it was Eric Butterworth that said that. Somebody said it, and I've never forgotten it. I forgot who said it, but never forgotten the idea. I desire more in life because I am more. Otherwise, I wouldn't desire it. If I didn't know I was something more than I am, why would I feel restless? Why would I think life could get better? It's just something we don't stop and think about. Why do I feel this way? It's because something in me knows. Well, that's that still small voice. That's that center that we want to get back to reconnect with and listen to. I desire more because I am more. And that I am has never stopped telling me that, has never stopped speaking. That's why when life is in chaos, I'm saying there could be peace. How do I know that? What would make me say such an outlandish thing? Because something in me has never left that state of peace. And I can get back to that right in the midst of this storm. You know, that's the whole story of Jesus in the boat, and the storm comes up. He's asleep. The disciples are very angry at him. If you really were worried for us, you'd wake up and worry. Well, he woke up and calmed the storm. And that's all symbolic. The Christ in us, needs to wake up. We need to come back to that spiritual center and calm the storm. So if you're in a situation now, just kind of listen to this, because that's, I'm not speaking as any kind of authority. I'm speaking as a person with a great deal of experience going negative, and a great deal of experience being in that negative state and being able to come back to my center. It does work. Anyone can do it. And I think that's what Jesus' audience found so appealing. Surrender in trust to the all-knowing, all-loving presence of God within you. Right where you are, initiate your spiritual reset. Open yourself to knowing that every step you take is the right step. That you are now being guided and protected in ways that will soon become perfectly clear. So if this whole spiritual thing doesn't work in the problem you're having now, when will it start working? When you evolve to become something more than you are? I would say that's never going to happen because you're already all that you will ever be, except maybe spiritually awake. And that's what this is all about. All right? Thanks for coming out. Hope to see you next week.
2, 3, 4. What am I doing here? What do I really fear? What do I want to know? What am I letting go? I finally figured it out. I kept holding on. Dark clouds and tears that always drug my spirit down. Hung on to hard times and chased love away, not being grateful and not willing to change. Letting go is all I ever needed to do. Letting go, and the light of creation comes shining through. Letting go of old answers and learning to dance here. Finding a way to let care slip away. Living this moment, letting go. Letting go. Letting go. Letting go, letting go. What am I trying to find? Just the right place and time. Will that bring me peace of mind? Can I just let my heart fly high? It's been real hard for me to see through this dream. Thought I knew it all, the things are not what they seem. I thought I was locked up while I was still free. Wrapped myself in chains, didn't realize I held a key. Letting go is all I ever needed to do. Letting go, and the light of creation comes shining through. Letting go of old answers and learning to dance here. Finding a way to let care slip away. Living this moment, letting go. Letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. What are you doing here? What do you really fear? What do you want to know? What are you letting go?
You've been watching a talk given by Reverend Doug Bottorff here at Independent Unity in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us spread our message. If you would like to support us, you can do so by clicking the button in the right-hand corner of the video screen. We greatly appreciate your support. Thanks again for watching.